Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ramadan Kareem. May Allah's peace and blessings on you. May your month of fasting be blessed and joyful. Dear friends, sisters, brothers from the World Muslim Community Council's viewers, welcome to the Muslim Achievers and Contributors series during this holy month of Ramadan. We hope you are doing safe and well there. Today, it is our great honor to have Brother Peter Sanders from United Kingdom to give us his story and his achievement and his presentation about photographic project he's been working on in the last few decades. Brother Peter Sanders is the most prominent photographer of the Muslim world. For more than 55 years, he has captured over 1 million half a million images over the Muslim world, reflecting rich tradition of a civilization with warmth, humanity, and compassion. And I'm sure many of you already saw with online or in exhibition many of his inspiring and breathtaking photograph works. So behind this, it is his lifelong pursuit of this career since 1960s, as one of the London's leading rock and roll photographers. And his image of the other, the famous stars during that time. And now we have very fortunate that he traveled throughout Muslim world and all in Muslim communities to capture the best images and smiles and memories and moments for Muslims. So let's hear from him, his story, his journey, and his achievement. Now give to you, Peter.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm just going to share my screen. You can see the screen okay, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Good. Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Thank you, Yusuf, for inviting me to do this presentation. It's something that I'm very passionate about, and I hope to just give you a taste of what I've been able to experience in my travels to China. And this is the cover of the book, inshallah, that we'll publish very soon, inshallah. I guess many of you know this hadith that is attributed to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Some say it's a weak hadith, but if you think about the sentiment of it, then the sentiment of it is very true. My fascination with the fact that Muslims existed in China has been with me for 50 years. And the first opportunity I had to visit them was in the year 2000, and then again in 2002 and 2005 and 2012. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get back there since because I've been busy with other things, but this is very much a work in progress. We enter China through the door of the Moon Gate, which symbolizes birth and renewal. The first section of my book is really about how Islam came to China, and the history of Islam, or the way of the pure as it is referred to in China, varies depending upon what you read and who wrote it. But what is known is that there were very early ambassadors who traveled from Medina in Arabia to China. And you can imagine that journey, how difficult it must have been at that time. I call them the ambassadors of the great sage. The great sage is in Chinese is what they would refer to the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him. And we begin here in Gansu in southeast China. In Gansu, I entered an old graveyard and I discovered old gravestones with both Arabic and Chinese. And suddenly I was walking towards a very impressive tomb and approached a beautiful door and entered what is believed to be the resting place of Said ibn Abi Waqqas, Said ibn Abi Waqqas, who was one of the 10 people promised paradise by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He was also famous for his wisdom and self-restraint. Although one of the most dominant figures of his time, he refused to fight for power after the Prophet's death. He retreated to the mountains, and when his own son came begging to him to interfere, he replied, "God loves the servant who is pious, independent of the people, and obscure." What fascinated me was discovering that Said ibn Abi Waqqas, the man said to have founded the Huaixing Mosque, and I apologize if my pronunciation of all these Chinese names is not correct, so Yusuf, you just have to forgive me. It was originally known as the Lion Temple and the Light Tower Temple. What was interesting was he shared this particular combination of characteristics and was himself associated with lions when he was with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Arabia. In addition to this, Saad is described in Islamic texts as having a very unique appearance, one that looked like a lion. And this wasn't merely a symbolic association. It was said that he physically looked like the majestic animal, a dark-skinned man with a flat upturned nose. He was stocky and powerfully built, his large muscles covered in black hair, and the long hair around his face hallowing him like a mane. Discovering the beauty of these old mosques was an inspiration to me in my journey. From Gansu, we go to Guangzhou in Fujian province. As we entered the beautiful, tranquil Lingshan Mountain Park, dedicated to 2 more of those early ambassadors from Medina, buried there, referred to as the trustworthy ones. Our Chinese taxi driver, not knowing we understood Chinese, was heard to say, "I don't know why all the Muslim visitors want to do is visit dead people." As I sat by the tombs, I became aware of the crickets making their own special remembrance. And as the legend goes, the graves gave off a mysterious glow at night. As far as we know, those trustworthy ones established the Shengu Mosque or Qinjin Mosque, but it was originally known as the Giraffe Temple. We now move to Hanzhou in Zhejiang province. Nestled in the city is the Zhenjiao Mosque. Also was known as the Phoenix Temple. This is the old mihrab. Now we're traveling to Yangzhou in Jiangsu province. This is the Xianhe Mosque, originally known as the Crane Temple. It's believed to have been established by Bahuddin, who was a 16th generation descendant of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These, what amazed me are these gardens in these mosques, and they are an essential element to these old mosques. I mean, this is the minaret. Notice the roof of the minaret reminds us of wings of a bird. And above the door also, as if these buildings are soaring into the sky. This is the old mihrab in the mosque. We're now moving to Western China, to Hami in Xinjiang province. This is the entrance to the tomb of Sayyidina Qais. It says on the plaque there that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent 3 missionaries to China, Qais, Uwais, and Wangais, but I prefer to call them as ambassadors. It says that Qais, this is his tomb, died in Hami. My trail goes a little cold now regarding the ambassadors, so I began following the trail of the old mosques. I'm now taking you to the oldest mosque in Xi'an, in Shaanxi province, much more known for the emperor's terracotta soldiers who are buried there. But if you have a chance, you should visit these mosques. They're really exceptional. There's a stone tablet which places the foundation of the mosque to 60 years after the Muslims had migrated to Medina. If you see from this old drawing, you enter the mosque, and then you go through a series of gates and gardens to actually get to the prayer hall, thus putting you in a very tranquil state, ready for prayer. The beauty of these places is palpable, really. This is now the Grand Mosque of Xi'an, which is much larger and was built later. And again, after passing through many gates and gardens, you enter the prayer hall. Around the prayer hall are 30 panels of wood with the whole of the Quran carved into it in Arabic and Chinese. So there's a juice of Quran on each of these wooden panels. And this is obviously the Arabic, and this is the Chinese translation, which sit underneath the Arabic. Now we enter Beijing, the capital, in the mosque. In the year 2000, there were 60 mosques, and I am sure that this number has increased now. The oldest is the Nuji Mosque, which is at least 1,000 years old. Always meticulously clean every time I visited this mosque, and there were always people polishing it and sweeping it and keeping it clean. It's really admirable, really, the respect they have for these places. This is the very old minaret. And probably for safer reasons, they make the call on the ground below. He's one of the beautiful imams there. Now I'm taking to you one of my favorite mosques in Ningxia province in central China. Ningxia is one of the largest populated Muslim provinces. This is the beautiful Najiahu Mosque, which originally was built nearly 500 years ago. This is my favorite minbar, which is why I featured it on the cover of the book. An old document about the original mosque details a high spire moon tower, which I guess is what they were referring to the minaret. Zhen He is the famous Muslim mariner, explorer, diplomat, fleet admiral, and court eunuch. It is claimed he discovered America before Columbus. And this is believed to be his resting place in Najin in Jiangsu province, but some say he died at sea. And this is a small add-on to the small history class I've just given you. But in the beautiful Ziuzhe Wild Park near the Tibetan border in the Sichuan province, I noticed this girl who looked like a Muslim, but she disappeared into the crowds. And later, by chance, Haj Nuruddin and I ended up sharing a bus together with her. And I asked him to ask her if she was a Muslim. And she replied, no, but her grandmother had been one. So the next section in the book is childhood, the journey of the self. And I'm going to introduce you to some of the people in the Chinese Muslim culture. Tick-tock to the rhythm of life. In a small madrasa in Xi'an, I sat amazed as the children recited Quran and sang Islamic songs and swayed from left to right. This is a beautiful old mosque of Kunming in the Yunnan province, and it has been replaced by a new modern one that I didn't like so much, but the women have now adopted, and the women and children have now adopted this old mosque, and it's as theirs, and now it is the women's mosque. The variety and uniqueness of Muslim children from different provinces around China. This is a school in Yunnan province, and this is the 100-year-old director of that school who posed with some of the children. He's a beautiful man, and still teaching. The next section is learning, the path to realization. And I noticed that the Chinese take studying very seriously. Assalamu alaikum in perfect Arabic, said Aisha to me, this small girl, when I was introduced to her. The Chinese love art. This is something I realized in my travels. And you can see whenever Haj Nuruddin began to display his work, the attention on it was just incredible. They never noticed me taking pictures. In a small madrasa in Inner Mongolia, a group of 30 girls earnestly studied Quran. And it was a very poor place. They didn't even have toilets in there. They had to go down a very dark, narrow street, unlit street to use the bathrooms. In Xi'an, the Imam's daughter gave a serene musical performance for us. In the Yunnan school I showed you earlier, the Chinese army gives discipline lessons to the children, much to the amusement of the girls. Educating the young imams is taken very seriously in China. Now we're on to commerce, the way of the world. Camaraderie amongst the mosque inhabitants as they barter. A Muslim trader in Ningxia. Ningxia is known as the Mecca of China. This is in a Rumshki in Western China. This is a scarf seller. Busy in Kashgar, not so busy in Dongxing in Ningxia. This is a Muslim hotel I discovered in Xining. And this is the local Muslim restaurant there. Notice how you enter the Moon Gate to enter the restaurant. I began to notice that I had this effect on some Chinese when the waitress cracked up laughing when I took her photo. The nature of food and color. Chinese dumplings in Yunnan. In this small agricultural village in Gansu province, I learned that the local population was 85% Muslim. This gentle worker there posed for my picture. while his wife tried to hide behind the vegetables. Shucking the corn in Chinese style, Ningxia. As with everywhere in the world, Muslims love to prepare food. This is in a restaurant in Beijing near the Nuji Mosque. I'm continuing to still have this effect on the Chinese wherever I go. And this was a fast food team in the capital of Ningxia province. Well-being and the art of good health. The Imam's Kung Fu fighting son. Early morning exercises at school. The Imam practicing the ancient art of Qigong revealed to the Buddhist monks so that they could stay awake at night to pray. Martial arts are very popular in China, as you probably know. This Imam demonstrated his sword techniques. In a small town, I discovered this local herbalist, and he allowed me to take pictures. And you can see how he diagnoses by feeling the pulses and looking at the tongue and the eyes. And then he would treat with natural herbs. This is a sign for the local dentist in Kashgar. Inside that dentist's surgery, I was surprised to see a hammer and pliers being used by the dentist. I call these the glasses of wisdom. They're polished pieces of crystal that heal your eyes. They're not like normal glasses, and they have incredible healing effect on the eyes. I've tried them, and they really do work. Life, the world of the 10,000 things. In Buddhist culture, Confucian culture, 10,000 things is the largest amount you could have anything in the world. So it's really everything within the world. That's why they use this term. Quietly knitting, the lady shyly smiled when I asked permission to take her photo. In Shaanxi province, in a small agricultural area, during the day the farmers toiled, and at night they slept in caves carved out of the hillside. Distribution of secondhand clothes there in poorer areas is essential. The blind grandmother who heads this photo shoot. A Muslim groom and his bride. Baby transport. Mobile phones. The hottest place in China, known as the Flaming Desert, which is in Tuofan, Western region. And I'm still making the locals laugh in Tuofan in Western China. In funerals, you can see how everyone helps with the last rites. This one looked like quite a great send-off for this person. The love of beauty and art, I've referred to this already, but her grandfather shows me his home. The mosques of China are canvases for art. I believe it is to lift the spirit of the people who visit them. This is an old tomb in Kashgar, the furthest city in Western China. Lanzhou is the oldest mosque. A dome of a new mosque in Hami in Xinjiang province, Western China. Minaret wings in Gansu province. As you see from this presentation, I'm taking you all over China. Muslims are not just limited to Western China. You find them everywhere, north, south, east, and west. And if you look there, you'll sometimes see little old dragons, and I'll explain that a little bit later. The fusion of Arabic and Chinese you see a lot, particularly in the mosques. The art of Tongxing Mosque. Master calligrapher Haj Nuruddin performs his art, and the Muslims are totally engrossed. The blessed tree of reflection. Seniority raises his hands and asks his creator for what he needs. A quiet moment in Sichuan province near Tibet. The Friday prayer in Huhot, the capital of Inner Mongolia. The art of integration. Some mosques in remote areas still use the Buddhist chimes, as well as the Muslim call to prayer to bring the congregation together. The Imam in Sichuan province made prayers for me. One of the largest Friday prayers in Xining in Quenji province, I hope that's right. Long life and preparing for the return. As I mentioned earlier, some of these old mosques still have symbols of dragons carved onto them, but they're kind of left because it reminds the Chinese it's symbolic of long life. We're back in Ningxia, the Mecca of China. Yeah, there's some very elderly, gentle Muslims from there. As I seated this serious Imam in front of his mosque, the moment I pressed the camera shutter, he broke out in laughter, but I was glad that he did. The elderly school teacher slowly fanned herself, keeping herself cool while I took my portrait. And finally, the elderly but sprightly lady from Inner Mongolia begged my two friends and I to come to her house so she could feed us. And when we reached the house, it was completely bare, except for a very rusty bed and a very thin cat. But in the true spirit of Islam, we were her guests, and she wanted to share whatever she had with us. It was a very touching moment for me. We, come from a society that has so much. The man on the right is a 90-year-old teacher who has thousands of students around China. And where he lived, he rode a bicycle every day. And I discovered his mind was as sharp as a knife. Imam Yusuf had selflessly led his community in prayer and wisdom for 50 years in a small village in Xi'an province, and in the mosque in that village. And for 2 hours, he selflessly served us food and drink. And finally, I'd like to thank all the Muslims in China who drowned me in hospitality, especially Haj Nuruddin, my constant companion on these trips, whose patience and generosity seems to know boundaries, plus the Muslim who loaned me his glasses so I could see. Thank you for your patience. I'm going to stop sharing now. Hello, Xiaojin, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, so I'm moved by your presentation. In fact, this is the splendid and very sophisticated, I should say, or heartful collection of your photographic works on Muslims in China. As a Chinese, and we feel very honored and proud when you features, diversity of Muslims communities and people and their culture and their movement through your lens. In fact, you preserved the history, you preserved the identity, and preserved even the important moment in their lives and in our lives. It's going to benefit many, in the future, and even for today who watched this show, who watched this brief presentation. I do have a lot of things to express, but I'll leave time for you to maybe to answer a few questions, and we often would curious to find out. As you presented this, masterful collections, and also we know you have so many other projects, including the books behind you, and Saint on the Mountains, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So all these great works and great collections of Muslims across the world, and today you present across China. What drives you, or what keeps you moving, and what's your passion into this? Why you are doing this for your lifetime?
I think, it's always been my passion has been in the visual arts. And, I do feel that we live in a generation now where the young people are very image orientated. It's really a language that they understand. And it's always been something that I'm not really a person of words, but pictures, images do speak to me a lot. And I think I've just used that to follow my own interests, really. And as I said in the presentation, China is one of the things that fascinated me from a long ago, 50 years or more, when I knew there were Muslims in China and also Muslims in Russia. And inshallah, later this year, I'll go to Uzbekistan to possibly begin a project about Muslims there. It just really it always has fascinated me that there are Muslims in places where you don't expect them to be. And you can imagine 50 years ago, not many Muslims knew there were Muslims in China. I mean, now with the internet, people probably are more aware, but it's just so interesting, because what I like about it is you take Islam and then you place it within a culture that is so different than ours. And then you see this fusion of these two things and what comes out of it, the beauty that comes out of it. And I think that's what really inspired me in China, because as a child, I was really aware of Chinese culture. But then, to find out there were Muslims there all across China who have not become, they're not Chinese Muslims who become Arabs, they've kept their Chinese culture. And they've kind of fused these two things together. And that's what we've been learning in the last few years as I start to write the text for this book, is that I don't know if you're aware, but there were two scholars in the Ming dynasty who decided, both of them were very high scholars, but they decided to be able to teach Islam to the Chinese, that they actually had to become Buddhist, Confucian, Taoist monks so that they really understood the religion of China. And this thing they did. And then they decided that they wouldn't use Arabic because the Chinese didn't understand Arabic. So they used the terminology that the Chinese would understand. So they didn't call Islam Islam, they called it the way of the pure. As I mentioned earlier, they referred to prophets as sages. So this was a language that the Chinese could understand. And then they could see Islam as an extension of something they already understood, not as something alien. And I think me as a Westerner, it makes me really think about how we present Islam in Western countries or countries that are not familiar with Islam. You know, we really do need to find the language in which we can talk to the host community. Otherwise, we'll always be thought of as aliens and outsiders. And, you know, what we understand in Islam is very close to what the Christians of England understood about, you know, did understood about who Jesus was, you know. And so there, we need to find common ground to talk to people. And I think that's what really interests me, because any path that you take is really has only one goal, is for you to have knowledge of God. It's not about taking on an identity. It's really about discovering something that really connects all of us, you know. And I think that is what seems to be so lacking in the world at the moment. You know, if you look around all the things that are happening in the world at this time, there's so much separation, you know, when it's a time when we really need to come together as a community. So anyway, it's a very long answer to your question, but it's what.
No, I think I like the way you articulate this, and you connect your passion toward Muslim world and to China with this very big theme or reality we are facing today, the issue of integration and indigenization. In fact, we can learn a lot from Chinese Muslim experience, and of course with Muslims in other parts of the world, like in Russia, in India, and even in England and in North America today, how they use their wisdom, their culture, and their contribution, and to integrate to the community they live in, and to make a contribution and impact to the society they live with. So I think that's what your presentation and your answer basically had really brilliant articulated so well. I hope, you know, we can guide, inspired by this from your work and your dedication.
Sure.
In fact, you know, your the years you traveled, when you start narrating the stories you went, the Chinese trips, I should say. It remind me, you know, like it's like a flashback, you know, the moments when I was a child, when we were in China in the last 30, 40 years. There was a very good period when China just started reforming, China opened to the world, and the Chinese Muslim also benefited a lot from this process until today, I guess. But you know, captured the best moment, you know, the kept the history. And I saw Haj Nuruddin. He still had, you know, the black beard. Now I think his beard is white. So as we all grow old.
And yes,
that's the best moment. You know, you captured not only the best moment for Chinese Muslim communities, but also best moment for each maybe individuals like you and Haj Nur. So that was very important. I think your work has very much historical value, you know. Many of these mosques and places has changed due to many reasons, because of urban expansion or many reasons.
Yes.
And now, you know, we can only see them in a very perfect way and in a delightful way through your lens, you know, through your works. Thank you so much for this.
I've enjoyed it. It's I have to say the food in China is very difficult for me. But despite that, I just had such an amazing time on all my journeys I've done. Really, it's just been, I've learned so much, and it's an incredible country.
Yes, to follow up on this, you know, besides your professional photographer, we know, besides your those photograph skills, what makes you like so successful and so right on time to capture those moments, as a smile or a building or food and clothing. How do you get that? Can you share some tips?
You have to train yourself to be very present, I mean, and it's very fashionable to talk about mindfulness these days, but that's part of what we understand in Islam is about being present, and of course we're always being distracted, and thank God it's Ramadan, so we have less distractions at the moment, but I mean, so when I'm doing photography, I have to be really extremely present because these moments are fleeting, someone's laugh or something, if you're not present, you can miss it. And so I love that, I'm doing something, photography, that maybe somebody might think is not very Islamic, but it's actually teaching me to be present in the moment. And so therefore it is a tool of me to discover patience in myself and learn things about myself, and I was told once that there's a scholar from, I think, 11th or 12th century who said that whatever you do in life, whether you're a carpenter or a doctor, baker, whatever it is, if you do it with 100% attention, you will learn everything that you need to know about yourself, and it will become like a spiritual path for you. And that, when I heard that, it made a lot of sense, We sometimes think that just spiritual path is just praying and fasting. Of course, it is those things, and I'm not denying that, but your life also can be a spiritual path. It's just how you look at life, if you've split these two things or you see it all as one thing, God is with us when we're doing our normal chores as well as when we're praying,
Yes, exactly. I remember, there's verses from Holy Quran that you can remember the God and remember Allah and doing zikr when you are sleeping, when you are sitting, when you are on the camel's back.
Beautiful.
So you can remember Allah.
Yeah.
So I think that's basically, even we were present and we are taking photos and as if we are remembering God or discovering the beauty of his creation and his creatures.
Yes.
Thanks for remembering.
So I feel blessed that I've been able to do something that I'm passionate about, and I got to travel so much. I mean, not for the last couple of years, but inshallah I'll begin traveling again soon. And I'm visiting all these communities, because the more you visit Muslims in China, you visit Muslims in Morocco, you visit Muslims in America, you begin to see, if you peel away the culture of those countries, you begin to see what unifies us all as human beings, these things of generosity and nobility and kindness and gentleness. All these things are what unify us. And really what unify us as human beings, these very beautiful aspects of human beings that sometimes get lost in worldly events, and we get distracted by what is happening around us.
Yeah. I'm glad and thankful that you captured many of these moments of humanity and we as a human beings, our moments in the lives, whether praying, whether in religious affairs or whether in the worldly affairs, and we all share these moments of human beings.
Yeah. We just, I don't know, I was just going to say that for the last nearly 3 years, Michael Sugic and I have been working on a project called Exemplars for Our Time. And it really was an extension of the Meetings with Mountain project that I did. But that project took me 50 years. We're nearly the completion of it. But basically what it is it's 9 books. And we've taken 9 different saints and sages from different countries. And in a short book of about 90 pages, and each one has been written by great authors. describing the lives of these people, because some of these people had incredible lives, difficult lives, but you know, they still maintained this incredible quality of positiveness and, you know, observance to God and studying. It's just really, I think for young people, this idea of what we call exemplars or role models has been lost slightly. And I was asked to go to my local mosque and meet the children there. And I expected there would be a few. The mosque was packed. And I just said to them, I'm sure many of you have role models who are footballers or film stars, but do you really know how they treat their wives and how they treat their children? Because somebody you take as a role model needs to be as perfect as a human being can be in their transactions with everybody. And I think it's important to know that, you know, because we take role models all the time as we, you know, as we make our journey through life, we are drawn to this person and that person, but it's important to know who that person is.
Yes, yes.
And so this has been a really interesting project for us. And I think it's important, as I said, it's really geared towards young people.
Yes, I hope in the future we would have opportunity for you to present this project when you complete it and when you complete them. So we are near the closing of our presentation and the Q&A session. By this holy month of Ramadan, and we would like you to say a few words to the viewers, to the the World Muslim Communities Council's members and the subscribers online, and whether based on your personal stories and inspirations or your lifetime wisdoms, what would you tell them today? You know, is from I think it's maybe a bit general, but I'll just leave you for you to decide to what should be, you know, be the advice or something you want to share with them. Yeah.
Put me on the spot a little bit, but I think something I've learned is that, you know, we often say Islam means peace, but we have to be peaceful people, you know, for a start. If we are peaceful, then people will feel peace from us. It's no good saying Islam means peace and then you're going around being unkind and shouting or even killing people in what happens in some places around the world. This is not. Islam is really about peace, really deep, deep peace, so that you can protect yourself, but you can protect other people from yourself, because most of the time we are the problem. We're the ones who have certain issues and we need to work on whatever those issues are. You know, I'm always telling that, you know, that some of my teachers, they tell people you need to sleep more, but they might tell someone you need to sleep less. They might tell you to eat more and they might tell others to eat less. Some need to work more and some need to work less. Whatever you are, there is a medicine for you, and you need people of wisdom to tell you what that is. So we need to work on ourselves as human beings, and by that we polish our heart, you know, and make it clear so that God's light can shine through us and we can be role models for people around us, and then make that connection, because it's all about, we need to connect. Oftentimes we feel so isolated from the societies around us, but there are good people. You need to reach out to them and make a connection, you know. And I think that's really our job at a time, as I said, at a time when people are so divided, there's so much divisiveness around. We need to bring people together. I really feel at this time, that's our job, really, utmost thing we can do.
Yes, definitely. I really benefit from this advice from you. I hope, you know, since you presented the Chinese Muslims in this project, I hope this advice they can also hear for their, you know, their time now in China. And we have been going through a lot. So I hope we can be, as you advised, we can be a peaceful person, we can be connected, and we will meet good person, and we can be polish our heart and to be perseverant during this difficult and uncertain times of the pandemic, and hopefully it will over soon. Anyway, thank you so much, Peter, and we have enjoyed your presentation.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a real honor. I appreciate it, and
yeah,
I hope everybody has a blessed Ramadan, inshallah.
I mean, it's a blessing to all of us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.